You're in dentistry for close to 3 decades. You own a very successful periodontal practice with your husband. You were Office Manager of the Year by ADOM, and you also run a dental business spouses group, and you've seen a lot. Well, that is Beverly Wilburn, who I have on today's podcast, who has a little bit of a bone to pick with those folks in the industry who show up as mostly takers rather than givers. And having been around for quite some time and involved in a variety of different organizations and groups and working with vendors and putting on events and all types of things, she's got some advice for people who are getting started and who really want to make a splash in the dental scene. Beverly never minces words. She's a real talker. She's a friend of mine, and she continuously cracks me up because I always deeply appreciate people who have no issue voicing their opinion. Even if you disagree with it, I still always appreciate what she has to say. So if you are somebody who's trying to make waves in the dental industry and don't want to be someone who's perceived as a little bit of a thirsty person in the industry or somebody who sits in this space of scarcity, this episode is definitely for you. As we often talk about, even in the leadership experience, who you're being speaks way louder than anything that you're doing. And of course, in a lot of the curriculum that I work on with those who are inside this experience, and quite frankly, in a lot of my coaching work, it's the energy, the context, and the space that you carry when you come into a room. And are you somebody that enters a room and people get your vibe and they like it? Or are you someone who enters a room and you might be somebody people aren't too pumped at seeing? So this episode's for you. Enjoy. Welcome to the Real Talk of Dental. Been dying to have this conversation with you and having you on the podcast. You are one of my favorite people in dentistry, and one of the reasons I love you so much is because you really embody the idea of being a real talker. And anyone who knows you knows that you do not shy away from sharing what you think and how you feel about things. And you also have the right to say it because you have been in the industry over 25 years now. And fun fact, you were a dental assistant for all of one day before the body fluids scared you out of the role. But very quickly after that, you found yourself in the front of the office, and now you are married to your husband, and you guys have been rocking this out now for well over 20 years, running a super successful privately owned practice in the greater DC area. And you have a lot of experience in running a business and also running a front office and a team and how to run a successful practice. And you were also Office Manager of the Year with ADOM, and you were also the proud founder and still facilitator of the dental spouses group within dentistry. So you've been around, you've seen a lot, you've experienced a lot, and you're not afraid to talk about it. So welcome. And one of the things we wanted to dive into right away was this idea of takers in the industry. So something you've been noticing over the last several years is this idea of people who really want to see what they can get out of people and experiences and not offer a whole lot of reciprocity. So let's dive in. How are you feeling about this, and where do you want to start?
Absolutely. You know how passionate I am about this. So many takers. Thank you for the introduction, by the way. Very, very warm introduction. I have been doing this a long time. Obviously, we see a lot. I do see a lot of givers. There's a lot of givers, so I don't want to take away from those givers, but there's just definitely so many takers. It's just filling up our airwaves with all of the taking that they're doing. And so I think it's something that we really need to talk about, like genuinely. It's just something that people don't talk about it enough. I think they shy away from it because they're afraid to say something, and it's time that we put it out there.
Yeah, what do you think are some of the, I guess, personality traits or the vibe, or what are the symptoms of someone who's a taker inside the industry?
Yeah, so what we see, I really feel like most often is they have a product. right? That they want to sell. And every interaction with this person is like, oh, let me talk about me. Let me talk about my product. Let me talk about this. And maybe some of us see it a little more than others, especially in the speaking consulting space. And as you know, you have a group and you have a large group where that's like leadership and mentorship and all of those things. And I think naturally in dentistry, right? Like most people in dentistry and most people in the world really want to be helpers. So it's hard to kind of identify who really is just trying to push their product or promote their product to you because they want to help you genuinely, and who is trying to promote and push that product because they are really looking for what's in it for them. And so sometimes that can be a little bit hard to decipher. But I think where we see it the most, if we're trying to figure out which one kind of person that is it's just like in the fake. It's in the fakeness. Like it's just inauthentic and not real. And that's why, I don't do a ton of these podcasts, but when I decided I was going to come here, I'm like, yes, like this is the place to talk about this, right? Definitely the place to talk about it. So it's the inauthenticity. Is inauthenticity a word? I don't know, but it's inauthentic, right?
Yeah, and are you coming more from a place of like vendors, like because I know in your position, you are approached constantly, and also the impact that you have, like you are a key opinion leader for sure. And so what Beverly thinks, a lot of people want to know. So, and whether they agree with you or not, right? But your opinion does matter. And you have influence, right? So you have influence over a lot of office managers, doctors, people in the industry in general. I mean, I'm not an office manager, but I'm always very curious of what you think. And I take your thoughts very, very seriously and your opinions very seriously. And if you have a strong opinion about something, it definitely makes me pause and consider it, right? For sure. But again, because you've been in your position as long as you have, you've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, probably already in round 3. And so is it mostly people that are trying to sell a product, like vendors or things like that? Or do you think people actually out, just general, I mean, even coaches, consultants, like myself, or people that are trying to be speakers or writers or along those lines too? Like, where do you see most of that kind of icky energy coming from?
Yeah, so I feel like vendors genuinely, I get to see the vendor side from both sides of it, right? Because I also host meetings. So I host meetings myself and we host 4 live meetings a year. And so I see it from the speaker, from both sides of the spectrum, to be honest, just because I do source memberships, I source sponsorships myself. I think most vendors really believe deep down they have a very good quality product to sell, and it's something that's going to help dental practices, right? And so I don't feel like, I think as long as they really truly believe in their product and they think that their product is an amazing solution for you, I don't see it so much in the vendor space of that, wanting to just take, take, take. And even if they did, quite frankly, like that's their job. Like a lot of them are commission based, right? And they have to eat. So like I feel like in a way it's okay for a vendor to do it. Like we go in with that expectation of that's what we're here for, right? We're here for them to try to get something from us. Where it bothers me, I think the most, I guess you could say, where it annoys me is in the space of consultants or membership group people or speakers a lot. We see that a lot. I mean, I've been in a room, literally very large dental meeting recently, and I was not a speaker at this meeting, but I was invited to the speaker reception just because I had some KOL things, and I was there with as a guest, and so it was just in this room. And it's so interesting to me to see how some of these people act when they get in front of meeting planners. I'm like, what is wrong? Like the first thing that you walk into the room with is like, hi, this is me and this is what, and I should be speaking at your meeting. Like literally I was witnessing people doing this. And I'm like, what about like hey, what can I bring to your meeting? What is it that your attendees are looking for? So I see it most, I think, in the speaking space because it's like, I understand they all want to speak. They all have a voice and they have amazing voices, right? Like they have great voices and they have great data to give. So we want them to do that, but slow down a little, like calm down. Like let's look at what the meeting's looking for first and lean into that. Like I'm friends with a lot of speakers that host their own meetings and it's one of their annoyances too. Like they're like, I don't know why this person is calling me and saying I should be speaking at your meeting. Like what have you How many people have you ever brought to my meeting? How many people have you sent my way? It's more about like the reciprocal efforts of how we work together. We understand as speakers, you have a product to sell, you have a gift to give, right? Like you can go in there and give your gifts of knowledge, and hopefully your name alone will bring people into the meeting, but you should be actively promoting. And I think, Brandi, you and I might have had a little discussion about this once prior about podcasts. I mean, and I'm just going to throw it in here truthfully, like podcasts, like be a good podcast guest. Like when you are going to go on a podcast, you should be promoting that podcast hopefully a week or so before. Hopefully, if not, whenever the host gives you the data. But it's not all on the host. The host is doing you a blessing by bringing you on, and they are giving you airwave to the world. And there should be some reciprocity there. And it doesn't happen enough.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, like, as you're speaking, there's, I mean, just basic generic language, right? Where people can be very self-absorbed. And I think it's also a product of our society and our culture. And even in the spaces of social media, and where people are really pushing the idea that they are the brand and you are the product. I'm told that all the time because of the kind of work that I do. And I'm the kind of person where I need to be pushed to sell and promote myself more. I'm at the opposite end of the spectrum. You've actually pushed me every time we talk. Usually you're like, go, do the thing, like charge, do something. And so then there's folks like me that are like, oh, I'm here. And then there's the other end of the spectrum, I suppose. And for whatever reason, right, however our makeup is to get us to that point. And then there's a bit of scarcity, I'm sure. Like there's not enough space. I need to fight for this. Or if I don't get this now, like whatever, right? That scarcity mindset and that level of competing, like you're saying for airtime or space or whatever, the meaning we make out of stuff if we're on this stage or that stage. And something else that is coming up for me is the idea of like the levels of intimacy. And you know this probably from, you can treatment plan in your sleep, I'm sure at this point. But like even with patients, right, developing those levels of intimacy to close a case, for example, like, people want to go from like, hi, I'm so-and-so, all the way to put me on your stage. You're skipping those levels of intimacy that need to be developed. And it's probably just as basic as treatment planning in a way, where it's like you have to develop the relationship first. You have to develop the trust. You have to understand the situation, the situational
You
dynamic.
just hit it honestly on the head, like trust. It's the trust factor. And most people, especially these days in the era of AI and all of the things that are fabricated and created in a way, that trust factor becomes even more important. Like trusting the people that, knowing the people, knowing that somebody's not just in it for them, knowing that they're not super, just thirsty about themselves. And you're right. It's like, just like in a dental practice, the same thing, right? Like your patients, they need to trust you. And I think that's going to become a very big thing. Not that that's what, today's topic really is about, but I think that's definitely going to become as we all branch more and more into AI. What I've noticed though, with a lot of the AI is a lot of things look the same.
Yeah, they
So,
do.
they all look the same. And so you're doing all these things to save yourself time, but then you're blending right into the next person. So you lose that authentic factor even more and more. Not that it's not helpful. We all need it. We all use it at some level, which is fine. There's no hard feelings about using it, but we do like to know that it's you. We do like to know that it's actually you. And we want to see that genuine in anything, whether it's, and your patients want the same thing, obviously, in dentistry. They want that same thing. It's, we're perio, and so they have a choice of 5 periodontists. And if all of us have all the same AI videos, what's going to make us stand out? And it's going to be the non AI, right? It's going to be the non fakeness. So just in a room full of people, it's the same thing. What's going to make you actually stand out and get the gig speaking, or what's going to make you actually stand out and get the client is the lack of, is the authentic you, is being you and being real and bringing that from a place of giving, not from
Yeah.
a place of need.
Hey, I just want to pop in on today's episode and talk to you about this new GPT I wrote called Boundary Boss GPT. And it's for those moments where you've said yes to something and immediately felt that pit in your stomach, or maybe you've now written 5 drafts of an email because you're trying not to sound mean, even though you're exhausted and you swear you've said this thing so many times to the same person. or you're kind of sick and tired of staying late, taking it on, smoothing things over, and wonder why you're the one that's always burning out. A lot of the conversations that I have on this podcast, we often hear about people hitting these walls of burnout and oftentimes not even knowing what to say. So that's why I built Boundary Boss GPT. It's kind of like having me in your pocket when you're about to respond to a text, email, or team issue, and you just don't know what to say because your people-pleasing brain is completely hijacking you. This is going to help you have clarity, confidence, and self-respect without the guilt, over-explaining, or the drama. Go ahead and grab it in the show notes below. It's totally free, and you're going to love it. Okay, now back to this awesome conversation.
Yeah, I love everything you're saying. Tomorrow, I'm actually going to be doing a talk, and it's all on communication, right? Because I firmly believe communication. I mean, this isn't an opinion; it's a fact, but it's like an art form. It's a skill, right? And a lot of people are jumping over that these days, and especially because of AI, everyone's becoming these like hyper communicators and pumping out tons of content. And a big piece I talk about is trust, where it's a lot of things that can be simply transactional. Sure, leave that to AI, right? So if you need things to be automated, like an appointment reminder or just transferring data or something like that, easy peasy, AI can do that kind of stuff. But where you need to establish trust and you need to establish the relationship, like that still requires the human to human interaction. And then also, like you, the individual, you are the change. Like you are the one that's going to be able to create that space for people in communication. And you're exactly right. Like those of us that use AI, and if you don't, I don't know, but you can tell AI is training us on how we read and how things are delivered. So immediately I can tell if something's AI, and then I just scan it really fast and I'm on to the next thing. Like I don't take the time to read it because I'm already knowing almost what it's going to say. And it has this like cadence and this rhythm to it that's just like, like
LinkedIn is like, and I love LinkedIn for what it's worth, but LinkedIn is the AI epitome of like the depth of the canyon. It's like you're scraping the bottom. I mean, if I see one more like, if I'm being honest, or
if we're going to use AI, put in your thoughts, have it spit something out for you, but then you really have to go in and take the time to like edit it and be like, when I really say this, is this really what I meant? Like if it's not, then take the time to edit it. But if you're just copying and pasting straight out of Chat or Claude, like the energy you put in is the energy you're going to get back. Yeah, and you do lose trust because people are like, that doesn't really sound like you, right? And then it actually works against you because people are like, oh, she's not really, or he's not really doing their own content. I even had a post on LinkedIn and 2 people commented the exact same comment. And I could tell it was my AI, and I called them out on it and they both nearly died. I said, hey, you might want to update your bots because they're both saying the exact same thing.
love it. Oh, love it. Yeah. See, but that's what I'm saying. Like you know what it says to me? I'm gonna tell you what it says to me. Not just in the AI format, but when somebody doesn't go the extra mile, they're not really interested in partnering with me or connecting with me, or
Yeah.
they're just not interested. They really aren't taking the time. It's the ones that really, it's almost like the difference in when you're standing over somebody talking to them, right? Or when you sit down on their level and have that same discussion. It's those two, it's intention. It's intentional. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what we see. We see lack of intention, or the intention is misdirected in this industry so often. It's like they want to, people, I should say, not they, not everybody. And not everybody, I feel like I'm, everybody's going to feel personally attacked today on some of this. If you feel personally attacked, it's probably a problem. So fix it. Okay. But, I genuinely think that in what we do in our space and our industry, we all have a potential to have a lot of influence. Let's have genuine influence because we can make a bigger difference that way, right? We can make a bigger difference when we have genuine influence, not inauthentic influence.
Yeah, I always go back to, I think it was the 90s, late 90s, with a lot of the environmental movement, because, my original degrees are all in environmentalism and stuff.
Yeah,
But
like geology, right? Like I just read this and I was doing my research on you as well. I mean, even though we know each other and I consider you a great friend, I'm like I probably didn't know that before. I started doing all this research and listening to a couple of past episodes, which were amazing, by the way. So everybody should go back and listen to those as well. But geology, awesome.
yeah, geology. Yep, that's right. I know, and here I am. Yeah, so I got my master's in geology, and that's been super fun. But yeah, I was always, big outdoor enthusiast. I mean, I still am. I don't get out as much as I'd like to these days.
That was big in the 90s, so just kidding. It's bigger now.
That's awesome. But there's that saying, right? It was think global, act local, right? And I just have that. And it's something that always stuck with me. And honestly, it's like still a belief of mine, which is like, yeah, think of the greater good, think of the global ecosystem, but act locally. Like, what can you do at the level? And when you talk about influence, I think about that too. Like, people are so consumed with being an influencer, where I'm like, you already are an influencer. You're influencing your family. You're influencing your friends. You're influencing the people you run into at the grocery store. You're influencing the people in your practice, right? What they're really craving is significance. And they don't think that they're significant enough unless they have like a huge platform. And I think that's where people can really get caught up in like what I say, lost in the sauce,
Yeah.
because so consumed with being on the biggest stage or whatever. And yes, being on big stages, you can have influence because your exposure is greater. But what if you can radically change one person's life versus 100 people maybe reading your one-page PDF and going, that's cool, and just knowing your name? Like, what would you choose? And so I think that's a question to kind of ask yourself too. And what's the motivation behind the machine? And I think that's what you're sniffing out, because I mean, my God, being in the front office and running a business for 25 years, you've been around a lot of people, right? And you can tell the context, like the beingness of the person. Like, you can sense that and sniff that out much more quickly because you've just had exposure to that many people. So I think that's something that you're talking about too, is really seeing like what's behind what they're trying to do. And it just doesn't, like you're saying, it feels inauthentic. And for you, as somebody who's so real and who's so committed to creating enormous amounts of value for the people in your life, you're going to sniff that out pretty quick.
It's hard to relate to people like that, though. I mean, don't you find that hard? I kind of feel like we find that hard. Can't relate to someone like that. And I definitely can't promote them. I definitely think, I mean, the word influencer, buzzword, I'm not a buzzwordy person, and I say this all the time, like the word culture. I'm like it just I don't know. Everybody's using culture, it's great, right? I get it. And it is what it is. It's hard to redefine that, but it's just like all these buzzwords that you hear constantly. And we see people in this industry too who want to go out and try to influence office managers or influence other people like that, let's just say in the industry, and they haven't worked in a dental practice in 25 years or 30 years. And I'm like, I hope this isn't me in 25 years when I retire. I'm definitely not going to do that. And that's why I'm not a coach or a consultant, because my gosh, your people would run screaming from your facilities. But I definitely am like, why, what is that? What creates that, where we're still listening to these voices from so long ago and we're not looking right now? Because there's a lot of people coming up who do have those kind of giving personalities and do have those kind of just very authentic. And people complain about people growing up in the social media life. There's a lot of social media that is very factual. We look at, like, people are like, oh, social media is so fake and it's all fake and it's all just social. It's actually kind of not in a lot of ways. We all started with it, like in the 90s, or date ourselves again, but where were we? Like The Real World or something, whatever that first reality show was. I mean, come on, everybody fell in love with it. That's really kind of where all this branched off from, right? It was being able to see into people's lives from a different level, and we're nosy. We're all nosy people, right? But a lot of us are still paying attention to voices that haven't embraced some of those ideas, I guess you could say. And so that part can be just a little bit challenging, I think, in dealing with people. All of this goes back to dealing with people. And
Yeah.
some days we want to deal with people and some days we don't want to deal with people.
Yeah, yeah. And where do you think this like sudden urge, because I've noticed this too. I mean, I've been in dentistry for a while, sometimes more involved than others, and on the peripheral at times and more hyper involved. But I have noticed this like over the last few years, this like thirst for attention. And it's become this space to like be somebody within the industry versus doing the work so
Yeah.
much of,
Yeah.
like pulling up your sleeves.
No,
And
you actually just hit the nail on the head. It's very thirsty. It's like, look at me, right?
Mhm.
That's what it is. It's look at me. And there are people, dare I say myself, that are a little louder than other people, a little maybe more do say things a little more vocal than other people. Again, we kind of brought this up initially. There are people that do that and have the backing to be able to do that because they've lived it or they've experienced it. But we were just talking about this yesterday in a group of dental colleagues. There's about 15 of us, and one of them had just been to an event where there was like a 20-year-old life coach. And it was like they're a full-on life coach at 20 years old. Now, I mean, I would find a little bit difficulty for there, believe me, there's some smart people, super smart people out there, right? But you're 20 years old, and how much lifing have you done to be able to be a life coach? Not that that's terrible. Maybe they have the training, maybe they have the things, but I mean, that would probably be like 1 in a million. But I think we see more than 1 in a million 20-year-old life coaches online or in our spaces, or, it's the look at me world, and it's annoying.
Yeah, and I think people are really missing, like we've been talking about, like the context too of like so many people are giving advice. And I had a little rant on this recently too online where it's like, man, so much of this stuff is just like clickbait without the context, right? And it's so exhausting, whether it's dental or political stuff or happenings or whatever. It's like people are just so quick. I mean, it is, the public assembly apparently, and they're just ready to stone anyone at any given moment. And without context, you know? And again, because of my geology roots and also studying holistic health and everything like that for a long time, like I always go back to the source, my mind is always tracing back, like, how did we get here? And so many people get really worked up about things, and they want to have like a really strong opinion about stuff. And it's like, well, time out. Let's look historically, like, how did we get to this place? And it's kind of exhausting where everyone's like really quick to say everyone's an expert these days in health, wellness, policy, politics, the economy.
We see it so often, especially in these social media groups and social media circles. I'm like, and I'm actually a firm believer in this too. Like, right, you have coaches, consultants, a lot of people in the dental space, and I feel like it's like they go there. Maybe it's like an office manager who's kind of outgrown that office manager spot, and they're like, well, my next step is to be a coach or a consultant, right? Like they think that's like the next logical place that they need to be without any vetting, without any, I mean, there's like no kind of organization that says, okay, you can now be a coach because you've gone through all of this XYZ training. I mean, we do have some organizations that support those people, but we don't have anybody to like vet these people. So you have to be careful about this advice you're getting out there from these, it's very risky to take some of the advice that we're seeing go through some of these spaces. And people are taking it as like the gospel, right? They're like, this is reality. And I'm like, it's not reality. And not everybody is an expert at everything. So, I mean, you can have a coach, you can have a consultant, you can have all of these things, and those things might be important to you, and they might do amazing, excellent things for your practice. But even that coach or consultant or somebody else is going somewhere to find their data to give you all of the answers, because no one person is an expert at every single thing. And no one is in this space either. Not one is right for everybody. Are there ones who have a lot of different practices and different places and a lot of education and experience built around a lot of different models? But what I always see constantly is like, oh, you need to hire me, or you need to pick me. It's pick me, pick me, pick me. You need to pick me because I've done this or I've done that. I understand, but you haven't been in a dental practice in 25 years. So you might understand like how to run a business and how to run a dental business and the trends that you see coming through that, but you aren't living it every single day sitting in that space or that chair, and you haven't in 20 years. So not just picking on the old people in the room, you know what I mean? Sometimes there's very young, I'm allowed to say that. I'm one of the old people in the room this year. So I'm allowed to say that, but not necessarily picking on the old people in the room, but they're genuinely even young ones that are coming up that have, maybe done this 2 or 3 years. They want a better life balance. I see it a lot in the billing space in dentistry.
Oh,
The
yeah.
billing space in dentistry is incredible. They're hiring these people. Everybody wants to work from home because they want this better life balance, but they don't have what it takes, or they want to start their own business. They go out and start their own business, and they're not doing well or succeeding for anybody because they really probably don't have that entrepreneurship brain yet. They can't run the business that way yet. They're really good at what they do, but they're really good workers. They're just looking for that solution from that work-life balance situation where they want to stay home. So we see that a lot of armchair experts, I guess you could say, or whatever you want to call them, but it's definitely a trend that's happening. Again, the pick me mentality, the trends of everybody's an expert, all those things are just out of control.
You're reminding me of a lot of stuff because I've been doing this, for a bit. And I think there's a couple things. One is you're totally right. People become really good at something and then they want to go out and like start a business and coach or consult on it. And I'm always for that. Like if somebody wants to start, that's one of the great things about America, right? That
Yep.
people forget is that you can start your own business and you can be an entrepreneur. And one of the things I always say to anybody is make sure you know what you signed up for, because when you go into business for yourself, it's the biggest crash course in personal development that you never knew you signed up for, because you get your ass handed to you time and time again. And if you don't have the grit, if you don't have the perseverance, if you aren't willing to do the inner work to navigate not getting picked or having the patience or having the spiritual toughness, like I think you really need to have a very deeply rooted and consistent spiritual practice when you're going into business for yourself, honestly. And it doesn't mean believing in a deity, anything specific like that. But speaking of trust, you really have to trust yourself and trust the process. And that's the vibe I think we get from people that do have that thirsty pick me mentality. And I get it because it's fucking hard to, when you're starting out and you're in the beginning and you're trying to make money as a entry level coach, consultant, speaker, advisor, whatever, or RCM expert or billing expert or HR expert, whatever expert you want to be, to get clients in a very, very crowded space, it's really hard. People aren't always willing to set themselves up in a way to get their ass kicked for the first
Well,
5 years.
I think what they really find is that the needs, where I feel like a lot of that thirstiness, like pick me, comes from, their needs begin to outweigh their gives. So, like
Oh,
when
yeah.
they're in that situation where they're working for someone or a manager or something, and let's say their job is to, collect insurance or, billing or other things like that. Their job is to help the patient, right? Like they have to help the patient and obviously bring revenue to the practice and whatever those things look like, but they're there to help, and their main communication line is to give themselves. But when they get into that their own space, now they need, because they're like, I have to eat, I have to feed my family, I have to have all these things. So the need becomes more important and they forget about the give and the reason they went there in the first place. So flip that script and we need to give them some water so they're not so thirsty. Throw the water bottles.
A little hydration station. Yeah. Well, one of the very early pieces of advice I had when I started my business, and I had my very first business coach who wasn't in dental or anything, by the way. And I picked her out. She worked with, she was a coach that helped moms develop a part-time business. And I found her from like my holistic health days, and like in her messaging, she was so grounded, and she was kind of anti hustle culture in the sense of like, she just had a peace about her, right? And there was this balance that she kind of had in her that I was like, I like that. Like she wasn't thirsty. Let's put it that way, right? She had this very practical way of doing business, and she was very much rooted in truth. And when I first met with her, she said, Brandi, it's probably going to take you anywhere from 5 to 7 years until you will be able to live full time off your business. And I was like, okay, right? So I had a
That's
part-time job.
real. That's authentic. That's what she gave you. She gave you that real authentic
So I had
reality.
either time or full-time job while I was building my business on the side, and I was working nights, I was working weekends, I was hustling all the time because I was like building it. And then eventually I got to a point where like the teeter-totter was like, okay, I think I'm ready. And I was like, but I don't know. And I said to my husband, I said, give me 2 years. If the needle doesn't move in 2 years, I'll tap out. Like I'll go back and I'll work full time somewhere else, because I was always rooted in reality, and it kept me humble, and it kept me in this place of being self-sufficient and this knowing. And I've met a few coaches actively out there right now trying to build businesses. and they are just pounding like people, like, what can you give me? I need this gig, I need to film my event, I need this, I need that. And I've asked them, I said, where is this like coming from? Like there, you are literally driving yourself insane. Like you're in tears almost every day because you were driving yourself so hard. And they go, well, I'm not making any money. I said, go out and get a job.
Yeah.
Get a job. And they're like, well, if I get a job, then I'll be working nights and weekends.
You're working nights and weekends anyway. And if you're not, your business
Yeah.
probably isn't doing well. And that's probably the reason.
In my head, I'm like, that's what it takes. When you're building a business, that's what it takes. Did you think you just wake up one day and say, I'm going to build a business and like, you're going to get blessed with clients, like just throwing dough at you? Like, that's just not how it works. Right. And so I think that's one of the things, like the reality check. Right. And even I work with associates who want to go open their own practice. And I drill them constantly, like, why do you want to open your own practice? Right. And then once they're getting ready to do it, I'm like, you got to know what you're signing up for when you say you want to open your own practice, because everything you've shown me up to this point was that you have zero ability to deal with hard times.
I'm glad you give them at least you give them the real,
Right?
right? Like, yes.
All right. So, Miss Beverly, what do you want to tell the thirsty folks? Where can they find the hydration station? What do you think?
Go back to elementary school. All those little things that you have skipped along the way. Be nice to people. Ask first what you can do for them, right? Like ask first what you can do for them. And when somebody gives you a stage, give back. Period. Like give back more than the stage that they gave you.
I love that.
That's
Well,
it. Very easy.
I'm sure you and I will be chatting off after this. So thank you so much for your time and your opinions as always. And I tell anyone, not that I ever do, I never plug people's social media on here because they get it once the podcast is released. But if anyone on Facebook, I encourage them to be friends with you on Facebook.
Only let those special people be my friend on Facebook, Brandi, because that's where I post the real, spicy stuff.
They will be highly entertained. And if she doesn't accept her friend request, you know where you stand.
I just don't want to offend you.
Well, thank you so much, Bev. You're amazing. Thanks for being here.
You just listened to the Real Talk of Dental. If it hit, if it stung, if it made you feel just a little more human, good. That's the point. This isn't about fixing practices, it's about healing people. And if you're brave enough to show up real in this industry, you're my kind of leader. Subscribe, call in, send your wildest workplace confession. And most importantly, don't clean up for anyone. The mess, that's where the magic lives. We'll see you again on the next episode.